This is Dan Abbott, and I'm doing a video to help you understand how to use DraftSight, a two-dimensional CAD program from Dassault. This is the second in the series of videos that I'm making. This one has to do with laying out drawings for orthographic projection. To correctly create a drawing in orthographic projection using DraftSight or using AutoCAD for that matter, you need to control the orientation and the location of the views. You also need to control the line types that you're using and control the line weights that you're using. It's also a good idea to have color used to designate the type of line you're creating. We're going to do that using something called layers. So before we do anything else, we're going to go in and we're going to create some layers. The layers are created by using the Layer Manager tool, which is the little button right next to the window that shows the series of icons. We'll look what those look like, what those do. But this is layer 0. Every time you start a brand new DraftSight drawing or a brand new AutoCAD drawing, you have one layer in the drawing, and that layer is named layer 0. You can't rename it and you can't delete it. It has to be there. So what I'm going to do, and you could do this by typing layer or LA at the command line as well. I'm just going to pick that little button. That's my layer command. I'm going to go over to the new option and say I'd like a new layer for drawing object lines. I always use white as my color. Now white sounds a little odd since we have a white background, but in DraftSight as in AutoCAD, a white line when you have a white background becomes automatically a black line. I'd like the line type to be solid as a continuous line. The line weight, however, I'm going to make a little larger than the standard line weight by going and selecting the drop down and picking something bigger than the standard line weight, which is 0.25, by the way. I'm going to change the default, I'm going to change the line weight for that object layer to 0.4. Now because the default is 0.25, I'm also going to change the line weight for some other layers as well. Make another new layer and go back to 0 when I do this, so I start with the same properties. This one's going to be called CEN for center. I'll go to the color. I'm going to go to a drop down right beside it and make it magenta. Instead, however, of a continuous solid line, I'll go ahead and go to other, and I'm going to load, little buttons right there, a center, and I'm going to hold down the control key, drag down a little bit, and then pick hidden as well so that I can load both the center and a hidden line types since I need them both. For the layer that's called Sen, which is a layer that's active right now, I'm going to select center as a line type. Loading it by itself doesn't assign it to the layer Sen. And as you can see, I loaded two line types, and AutoCAD or DraftSight would not have any idea which one to apply. So I'm going to pick center. I'm going to select the activate button, pick OK. Now I have a center line type. Now I'm going to make my default line weight half of my object line weight, so I'm going to make it 0.2. Instead of default. You can redefine the default, by the way, but we're not going to do that right now. I'll go to layer 0 again, make another new layer, HID for hid. I'll go over to the line style and I'll pick as the drop down hidden, and I'll change the color of my hidden lines to blue. Top one right here. Now I'm going to double click on the status column beside object and make object my current layer. I'm going to go over and just make sure under properties that the general properties show the layer that I'm on, but that the color is identified as by layer. Line type scale is going to be identified, and you can see line type scale by going right here, identified as 1. That means whatever line type scale, whatever line type definition was used to define things like hidden lines is going to be used at a 1-to-1 scale. Since this is a continuous line, it won't have any impact. Center, if you'll notice, is the current line type that shows up here. I don't want center to be the line type that shows up there. I want by layer to show up there. And on line weight, I want the same thing. So I'm controlling the line type I'm using and the line weight I'm using and the color by the layer that something is placed on. Right up here it shows me that I'm currently on layer object. So if I go over here and pick a line, or let's start with a rectangle in this case, I pick the rectangle command, look down in the options to see what I need to do next. I have some things I could change, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, and by the way, don't mistake thickness for line weight. It has nothing to do with line weight. You can put a width in here, but we're not going to do that either. Specify start corner. I can select any random point on the screen, or I can type in a coordinate, 2.25, comma 2.25 for instance. We'll start my rectangle 2.25 units over and 2.25 units up from 0, 0.